Shalom, people. This is Brother Laos coming at you with another video. And we want to thank the Most High Yah for being here today. We know it's been a while since we have done recording, but we have had family obligations that we have had to deal with. And also, me and my family have been through a period of sickness as the seasons change. It brings on the seasonal colds and flus and stuff like that. And so the Most High has been bringing us back from that bout of sickness that came upon me and my family. And I thank the Most High for bringing us out. So we want to talk to you today about some things that have transpired since we last talked to you in our last recording, some things that have happened in the entertainment world with P. Diddy and many of these other rappers, which we could talk about this subject all day long. But we want to come at it from this angle. We want to come at it from the thought that this was definitely a well-conceived plan of the enemy to get us as Hebrew people to the point of the debauchery that we see in our community today. This is not to say that we have not ever engaged in some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. We're not going to get into any gross violations per se. We're gonna touch on it a little bit, but we know one of the things that made the Most High upset with us, which got us kicked out of the land, was because of our inability to not let other nations' evil influence us. The Most High had created Yasharel, Israel, in order to be an example to the other nations on how to live this thing out. And of course, we know that it didn't. It wasn't the case as you read through the Old Testament, but as you get to what we call the New Testament and the coming of Yeshua and the coming of the Holy Spirit to indwell in you, we see that there was almost a wholesale rejection of that message of Yeshua by the nation of Judah, Israel. It was a rejection of it, which is the only thing, as we have taught before, that can help you win the daily battle against the flesh. But that, because of that, the Most High has allowed us to be kicked out of our land, allowed us to be scattered around the world. But within every era, Yah would always have pockets of his people that will still seek him, as Paul stated in the book of Romans, that there will always be amongst Yasharel, Israel, those that are servants of him according to election, and that in the end, the deliverer would come from Zion to gather up that elect of Yasharel that would follow after him. And we believe we're living in that time. So the devil's job is to make that, or try to make that number of the elect smaller and smaller when Yeshua comes back, and that to try to make the bulk of not just, of course, us as Israel, Judah, small, but amongst all the nations where the message of Yeshua has been spoke that there will be a mostly wholesale rejection of it, and that it will be as in the days of Noah, when we know it was only 8 souls that got on the ark. But this is a message that we want to key in mostly to our people today, the Hebrew people, particularly here in America. And we're going to talk to you today about the iniquity of the Amorites. The iniquity of the Amorites. We want you to go to the book of Genesis, the 15th chapter. And we're going to start at verse 1. And this is the Most High Yahuwah as he talks to Abram, as he was called then, and later the Most High renamed him Abraham. But right now he is talking to Abram, and he's talking to him about future things that are going to happen. Starting at verse 1. And it said, Abram said, Master Yahuwah, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus. And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the master came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the master, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am the master that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Master Elohim, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me a heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against the other. But the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram. And lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Knoweth of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. The iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. But I declare unto you that the iniquity of the Amorites in the time that we're living here in America is full. and it is ripe for judgment. Who were the Amorites? The Amorites were of the tribe of the Canaanites. We know that Canaan was the son of Ham, the Hamites, the Hamitic peoples. And we know that the land Canaan was named that because the Canaanites, which was made up of different tribes, but overall they were all descendants of Ham and descendants of Canaan that had populated the land. And the thing about that part of the land that there was, that according to the some of the apocryphal books, if you believe in some of them, at least from a historical standpoint, is that that portion of the world at that time, what we call the Middle East, had been given to Shem and his descendants. Therefore, Canaan being there was against what had been agreed upon by Noah amongst his three sons, and sanctioned by the Most High Yah. Therefore, he was in violation. And so we find that the Canaanite tribes, the Canaanite ways, is to be in violation of that which Yah has been, and the rest of mankind is in agreement with. He will be a perpetual violator of that. If it says to go up, he says no, it's to go down. If it says to go right, he said no, it's to go left. If it's supposed to be light, he says it's to be darkness. Let's read here about the Canaanites, which the Amorites were part of them. This is a good book. I got this back in the 80s. This is what you used back before the internet and all these came, when you wanted to look how thick this is. If you wanted to look up names, if you wanted to look up cities, if you wanted to look up the understand where different scriptures were, this was a concise dictionary, concordance, and historical reference. And this is from time to time I'll pull it out, and I wanted to pull it out here instead of going to the internet. So this is what Vines, Strongs and Vines is a combination of the lexicon and all of this. This is what they talk about the Canaanites. It says Canaan, it means merchant, is first use of a person in Genesis 9 and 18. It says reference from Sidon to Gaza to Sodom, west of Jordan. It says Canaanite is a general term for all descendants of Canaan. Is interchanged with Amorite in Genesis 16. So it's actually saying in the translation, the iniquity of the Amorites could have been the iniquity of the Canaanites too. So we know we are talking about the Canaanite people. Let's keep reading. It said, Canaanite also refers to one specific people in Canaan. These people were traders. Traders, not traitors, traders. It says, well, we're not going to read this part because I'm not in a per se agreement with what this is saying here. But we'll say, we'll read here. He said, the command to destroy the Canaanites was very specific. But too often the house of David and Judah built them high places. Canaanite became synonymous with religious and moral perversions of every kind. So the iniquity of the Canaanites is spelled out to us, some of them, in the book of Leviticus, the 18th chapter. And we're going to go over that next. But we know that at the time that Abram, who would later be called Abraham, got this vision, he was talking to him about what was going to happen to those that were going to be of Jacob and his sons that went down into Egypt, who were going to be there for, we understand about that for the most part of their time in Egypt, that they were not, quote unquote, in a type of slavery. But the prophecy that Yahuwah is given to Abram at this time is dealing with that of them going down into Egypt the first time. And however you want to state it was going to be 4 generations that they were going to be in there, and that they was going to be treated bad, and they was going to come out because they could not stay in Canaan, because the Canaanites' iniquity was starting to rub off on the 12 sons of Jacob. You could see it in the book of Genesis. You could see the intermarrying of them with the Canaanites, them holding on to some of the gods, where you see when it was at the oak of Shechem, where Jacob told them, hey, take all your gods and stuff, and we're going to bury them under here at the oak of Shechem, and then we're going to move on. And you can see some of the treachery that that some sons of Jacob got into when they deceived Shechem into circumcising their men, and then they later on came and killed the whole population. They was using deception and sleight of hand. That because of that iniquity, Yah told Abram his people were going to have to go off into a strange land. They was going to have to go off into Egypt for 4 generations. But then they would be returned back at the end of that 4th generation, because by then the iniquity of the Amorites or the Canaanites would be to that level that's why when they came into the land, Yah told them to destroy the Canaanites off of the land, because if they didn't, they were going to be caught up into the sins of the Canaanites, and they will give up the protection that the Most High could give them from living the way that He told them to live. And we're going to go into that in Leviticus 18. But how does that deal with us? Because as I told you, I believe that the Bible says that Yah speaks once, twice, and sometimes 3 times, that this prophecy did not have just one fulfillment. It was definitely fulfilled, I believe, in the sense of the Jacob and his sons going down there into Egypt and being there for 420, 430, however many what it was, how the Most High counted it. It was 4 generations, and then they came out. But that this would be a thing that we could look to in the future, in the sense of how did it go down for us when we, as Black people, as Hebrew people, go into any region and we are set up, however it is going to be, through slavery or through us running away on our own, that there will be a generation that when the Most High thrust them out of the land. In the case of Judah, in the case of the northern kingdoms, Yah thrust them out of the land and they never came back. In the case of Judah, he thrust them out for 70 years and allowed them to come back. But that he said in Deuteronomy 28, he said, I shall take you back to Egypt or to the house of bondage again in ships. We have to believe that when he used the word ships, that they was going to go back to ships, that he was alluding to a specific thing that would be in direct comparison to what Abram had been told here in Genesis 15, that your people would go off into a land that they did not know anything about, and they would be in bondage for 4 generations. But then at the end, when the iniquity of the Amorites got full, he would bring them back again into the land, because he would take them out of that type of the land called Egypt back into their land, because a group of people would be a type of the Amorites or Canaanites. Their iniquity would be up to here. And the Most High said, now it's time to go back, because I'm getting ready to destroy them people. And so we see that our people came here to the 4th part of the earth, which is what America, the Western Hemisphere, North and South America, Central America was called the Caribbeans, the 4th part of the earth. We came here some 4 generations ago, not just here in America, but in that's to say the 4th part of the earth, South America, Central America, North America, the Caribbeans. We were propagated over here, not just Israelites. I believe it was other, but mainly the crux of who our people was brought here 4 generations ago in ships. Why? Because the iniquity of the Amorites was starting to fill up. Where? It was starting to fill up in all the places that Most High kicked us out. The other nations were going in primarily Japhet, to carve up the places which would one day be our portion again. He was carving it up and also engaging in all kinds of sin. Think about the rise of Islam with the mosques, the minarets all over the place. The rise of Catholicism and Protestantism with their churches with the Baal penis all over, which is a phallic symbol. The use of Islam and Christianity to enslave not just Israelites, but also other peoples of the world, dark people, the people, the iniquity of the Amorites, of the Canaanites, because you see that the Japhetic nations had taken on the sins of the Canaanites, were purely ingrained in with the phallic worship, because phallic worship amongst indeed the Hamitic tribes is very, very keen. This had been grabbed hold and taken hold by the Japhetic nations, the iniquity of the Canaanites, phallic worship and false religion, right? Baal worship, Lord worship have been taken and has been filled. What do we know went on during slavery? It was great sexual sins that were propagated by the Arab slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, which is the Catholic and Protestant nations that were engaging in this and were in agreement with the sexual things that were being done. We propagated the creation of whole mulatto nations by these wicked Japhetic not just ministers, but also educators that told these people it's okay for you to do this that you're doing. The iniquity of the Amorites was starting to feel, but the Most High said at the end of the fourth generation, he said, you're going to come again because now I'm going to start to judge the iniquity of the Canaanites, not just in our land, but worldwide. So what has the enemy been trying to do? The enemy has been trying to appeal to us to also get wrapped up in the iniquity of the Amorites, so that when the judgment started, that our people would get mixed up in it also. So what did you see when they brought us here to this nation? One of the wicked things that they did in Maryland, Virginia, DC areas, they had these slave breeding farms where they forced the black men to breed with the women, the strongest buck, and just to get involved in all kinds of wicked debauchery. But let's go to the book of Leviticus, because we want to find out what is the sins, what is the iniquities of the Amorites that we must know that the Most High said we got to be careful of, and we must be aware. Leviticus 18. We want to start with that. Leviticus 18, verse 1. And he said, the master spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the master your Elohim. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whether I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ye shall do my judgments and keep my ordinances, to walk therein. I am the master your Elohim. Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. I am the master. None of you shall approach to any that is near of kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the master. When you talk about uncovering the nakedness, right, you're talking about sexual sins. When you're talking about uncovering someone's nakedness, you're talking about engaging in sexual you're talking about engaging in sexual activity. You say you're not supposed to be in relations with people of your near kin. Talking about brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, first cousins, stuff like that. He said you are not to engage in that. But apparently in Canaanite culture, this was a part of their ordinance, was to engage in this kind of wickedness. Verse 7, it says, the nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother shalt thou not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. So he's kind of going into detail about this. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. He's talking about like if your stepmother or someone like that, if you know your father remarried and she is your new mother, say you're not supposed to engage in sexual activity with your stepmother. Verse 9, he said, the nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. Basically saying if it's your blood-born sister or your sister through your father marrying another woman and she has a daughter, and now that would be your stepsister, or your vice versa. He said you are not to engage in that, right? He said, verse 10, the nakedness of thy son's daughter, or the nakedness of thy daughter's daughter, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover, for theirs is thine own nakedness. So he's saying thy son's daughter, your grandchildren. He's basically saying your grandchildren, the daughters and sons of your daughter or your son. You are not to engage in sexual activity with them. All this stuff was going on amongst the Canaanites. Okay, let's keep going. He said, the nakedness of thy father's wife's daughter, begotten of thy father, she is thy sister, thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. This goes back to what I was saying, your stepsister or your stepbrother. You're not to engage with them in sexual intercourse. He said, thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's sister. She is thy father's near kinswoman. This is your aunt. He's talking about your aunt. You're not supposed to engage in sexual misconduct with them. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, for she is thy mother's near kinsman. So he's basically saying any of your mother's or father's brothers or sisters, you're not supposed to engage in sexual activity with them. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy father's brother. Thou shalt not approach to his wife. She is thy aunt. So he's basically saying your uncles and your uncle's wife. You're not supposed to engage in sexual misconduct with them. He said, thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy daughter-in-law. She is thy son's wife. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy brother's wife. It is thy brother's nakedness. He said, sister-in-law, brother-in-laws, in-laws, you're not supposed to engage in sexual misconduct with them. Also, thou shalt not approach unto a woman to uncover her nakedness as long as she is put apart for her uncleanness, meaning if it's that time of month, you're not to engage in, for women when they're going through their cycle, you're not to uncover, you're not to engage in sexual activity with them during that part of that when they're going through their uncleanliness. And in fact, the Bible said that the woman was not even supposed to even be sleeping in the same bed with anybody when she was going through that, and anything that she touched, it said would be. Now, of course, we understand today because of whatever, but I've heard that even in some African nations that they have these separate houses that women have to go to during that time of month. I'm not too sure if that's still true or not, but that's what I heard. But in the case of her going to uncleanness, you're not to engage in sexual things with her at that time. Moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife to defile thyself with her. Adultery. You're not supposed to engage in adultery. Thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molech, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am the master. Basically, the child sacrifice going through the fire, and in America that would be the Planned Parenthood and the stuff that they get engaged there with the killing of the unborn. He said, you are not to sacrifice your seed to Moloch. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind is an abomination. Basically, the LGBTQ, you're not to engage in that. Verse 23, neither shall thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therein, neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereof. It is also confusion, basically talking about bestiality, not to sleep with animals of any kind. He said, defile not ye yourself in any of these things, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. Meaning, everything that I just got through reading to you, he said that the Canaanites were engaged in this. And so when Yah was talking to Abram in Genesis 15, he's saying these Canaanites are engaging in these in iniquity of the iniquities that I just named off. But it hasn't got, it's starting off, but it's going to reach a crescendo. And we can remember in the book of Genesis, remember what happened with Lot, Abraham's nephew, when he went into what? Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah were cities of who? Of the Canaanites. They were of the Canaanites. The people of Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities of the plains were Canaanites. And we see how far that sin had evolved to that Yah said, I'm not going to wait for the iniquity of the Canaanites. In this case, I'm going to wipe them off the map because they are way ahead of schedule. So what we understand is that by the time that the fourth generation of them coming out of our people coming out of Egypt into Canaan, that the iniquity of the Canaanites was at that level, that Sodom and Gomorrah level, where Yah had told them when they go in not to touch anything because it was so much widespread sexual disease. And in fact, when they went into Jericho, who is it that the spies hid themselves in? They hid themselves in the house of a harlot, Jezebel, which shows you that prostitution, all kinds of immoral sins were widespread, just like we got through reading now, and had got to the level of Sodom and Gomorrah, where there was all kinds of violence involved in this. And so Yah wanted them to just wipe them out. He didn't want them to have anything to do with the inhabitants of the land. And he said, and 25, he said, and the land is defiled thereof, I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomiting out its inhabitants. So the sin, the iniquity of the Canaanites or the Amorites had got to that part where the land was literally spewing them out. And we got a point of why we going through this, because we're gonna bring this back to the times that we're living in today and what's going on with P. Diddy, but not just him, but many others. Let's keep reading. He said, for all these, verse 26, ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled, that the land spew not ye out also when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from amongst the people. Therefore shall ye keep my ordinance, that ye commit not any of these abominable customs which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the master your Elohim. And so what we see is, again, the fact that our people, when we were, quote unquote, brought here to this nation, the Western nations were in their age of exploration. And a lot of times, part of their age of exploration, when they found different places, they would go in and they would propagate their seed and amongst the native women, and to dilute the populations, and also to bring in their ways. Now, what we understand is that the Greek culture and many other European nations' cultures took from other nations and made them their own. And one of the things that the European nations, the Japhetic nations, took is they took on the ways of the Canaanites in the things that I just got through reading to you. Remember Nimrod? Nimrod was a Hamitic man. He was Ham's son. But he led the world's first rebellion in what we call our modern day Iraq. But when they spread out, when Yah broke up divided the nations up away from the Tower of Babel, a lot of the ways of the Hamitic tribes, some were still taken out with the other nations, and one of that was phallic worship, or the man's private area, phallic worship. The Canaanite culture, not just the Canaanite culture, because we see in Leviticus, he said, don't do the sins of Egypt. They were phallic worship too. The obelisk, the obelisk of Egypt, that's a phallic. But the Canaanites in particular were masters of phallic worship. They were masters of of sexual sins. They had become masters, and tied to that phallic worship was a type of power that they got, demonic power, of course, that they got from doing all this wicked stuff. Because just like Yah inhabits the praises of his saints, Satan inhabits the filthiness of his followers, and will entice them with power if they engage in these sexual rites that the Canaanites, with their Baal worship, their Ashtaroth worship, gained through this. This is why Yah said their iniquity was full. It was starting to actually spill out into all the surrounding nations, this Baal worship, this Ashtaroth worship, because indeed, like I stated to you, you see that the Japhetic nations took on this phallic worship, this sexual stuff also. And so that by the time, like I said, when they grabbed, when we were caught up in the transatlantic slave trade, right? This phallic worship and the phallic worship of this thing called Christianity, because you can see it with the Baal's penis, the church steeple, that is Baal's penis. That these people were propagating this stuff to the slaves in the slave breeding farms, the buck breaking, all of this stuff that they were engaging in with us. And so that when we came out of slavery, right, when we was trying to get back to having a nuclear family, father, mother, children, whatever, that they were constantly trying to break that up to make again our society vulnerable, where our women now will have to take up the reins of the men, because most of the men were going to be either killed or they were going to be in prison for phony charges with their blue laws, their different things, and also to be separated from the woman, so that they could be put in these houses of bondage for long periods of time, and that they would foment within them these dark Canaanite type desires that they would try to foment within our side, not just with the creation of the divine nine, who caused them to go through certain rituals and rites to prove that, hey, I can be part of this secret society. A lot of them involve sexual things, Freemasonry, Prince Hall Freemasonry, getting to do all kinds of. What did it involve? It involved phallics worship, or as Levites levy with the Baphomet, half man, part goat, part female, and protecting of the what? The private parts. It was all part of the iniquity of the Amorites. And so they got our people to buy into some of this stuff and to get mixed up in some of this stuff, the iniquity of the Amorites. But Yah had always told us, he had told us in the book of Revelation, what did Yeshua say? He said, come out from among them, my people, that ye be not partaker of their sins. At the end of this fourth generation, the iniquity is going to get here. And that's all Albert Pike in his vision and everything of the 3 world wars and people gravitating to Satanism, is that the iniquity of the Amorites was going to get full. People was going to get tired of even the pretense of this phony thing called Islam, phony thing called Christianity, that was used to, the smoke screen of these religions would use to mask the sins of so many sexual sins. That's why you seeing what coming out with all these Baptist preachers, Methodist preachers, black, white, whoever, getting caught up in what? All kinds of sins of the Amorites. And we also seeing within a lot of because of the internet and people have opportunities to do blogs and different things, you are seeing how there are Hebrew people, black people that are coming out saying that, within my family, there was an open secret that was going on, that this kind of sexual stuff was being done amongst our families. But of course, we didn't let everybody know because that was a taboo amongst black people, that the iniquity of the Amorites amongst us to a certain extent is getting to that point that we see that Yah is allowing a lot of it to be brought out now, because the iniquity of it is getting to that point. And this thing it didn't just start with Bill Cosby. It didn't just start with P. Diddy. It didn't just start with R. Kelly. It started way back. I believe this stuff started way back when our people migrated into the cities in the northern migration. That's not to say that when we was in the South, we was not doing some stuff. But for the most part, I believe the us getting entangled in the iniquity of the Canaanite lifestyle is when we started gravitating to Chicago, LA. We started gravitating to New York City. We started gravitating to St. Louis, these different places, that our people started engaging in these sins of the Canaanites and the iniquity of the Canaanites. And this was a wholesale plan for the enemy, because when did you see our people start losing their land? We had millions and upon millions of acres around that time of the northern migration. When we started losing land. We started having our Wall Streets were being burnt down to the ground. Why? Because we were getting involved in the iniquity of the Amorites, the Canaanites. What did we see in the Harlem Renaissance? The Harlem Renaissance, they said that it was the coming out of many black men and black women that were LGBTQ back then, We start seeing our people start experimenting with hardcore drugs like heroin and cocaine, and of course, marijuana was something that they might have done in the country, but when they got to the cities, it was like reefers was nothing. Our people start getting mixed up in the abomination of the Canaanites. Do you remember the scripture where he said, "Don't cause your seed to go through the fire"? Our people start getting mixed up in the what they say, the back alley. I'm not going to use that word because I want to get flagged with by YouTube. But our people were getting caught up in the what they call the back alley killing of the seed back then. And indeed, I think, and I could be wrong, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, they said that almost happened to Farrakhan, but with his mother, but it didn't work. And so he survived. But I'm not sure. That's what I heard. That I say it was, let me use this word. The rumor is that he survived his mother doing a back alley with him. Allegedly. Yeah, that's the word. Allegedly. So our people were starting to what? Engage again in the iniquity of the Amorites. But for the most part, it didn't really take off, I believe, for us until you start seeing like the late 60s, especially 1969. It was a very pivotal year in this nation, but also in the world, because at that time, America was getting ready to start backing up out of the Vietnam War, but also you had the rise of the hippie culture all over, free love and everything, and how some of our people start getting engaged in that, and more and more our people start getting into the entertainment world, and also they were now producing shows with our images, movies with our images, but they were not good, wholesome images. They were not good, wholesome movies. They started with the black exploitation. They started with the things bearing our bodies. I can remember, we're gonna go to our next scripture. It was a drive-in movie theater in Winston-Salem when I grew up, and it was set on a hill, and I remember it was a big old screen. I mean, big old screen. But on certain times on the weekend at night, when you drove past there, like I said, if you caught it at the right angle, you could literally see some of the stuff that was going on the screen. And I can remember one night when we was driving that way, my mom, dad, and my brothers, we was driving down there. I think it was called Old Greensboro Road. We was driving down there, and I turned my head and I looked, and I seen these black people that were naked on the screen. They were naked, men and women. They was on the screen. I remember I just caught a short glimpse of it. It was just like that in the black neighborhood, because there was an apartment complex right beside the movie theater. So you could literally, if you lived in that apartment complex, open your window and look at the movie. You couldn't hear the sound, of course, because the drive-in movie theaters had the little box but you could see everything else, because like I said, we driving down Old Greensboro Road, and you can catch part of it there. But the people that was in, so they were already starting to try to immerse our people in the iniquities of the Amorites back then. And so when you get to the thing of how every form of entertainment that we might have innocently created, they have taken it and have tried to get us to buy into the iniquity of the Canaanites, because they understood that when it's time for it to be judged, that we will get judged along with it, just like Yeshua warned us in the book of Revelations. Come out from among her and be not part of this harlot. Because where there is false doctrine, there's also going to be sexual immorality. Where there's false doctrine, there's going to be sexual immorality. They go hand in hand. And the Canaanites were masters of religious sexual worship. Religious sexual worship. Let's go to Matthew 24th chapter and start verse 1. And this is Yeshua talking about the end times. And Yeshua went out. This is Matthew 24:1. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, said see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world, or end of the age? And Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. Then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And what? And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So Yeshua is telling us that near the time for him to come back, iniquity, what? The iniquity of the Canaanites is going to be so pervasive. It's going to be so that people just going to get cold to it. It's not going to faze them anymore. So when we see what happened with what they did with the inner city culture, which was spoken about by these rappers, which created the hip hop culture, right? Inner city culture, poverty culture, pain culture, fatherlessness culture, drug culture, pervasiveness of, okay, so we say, oh, well, and I used to say this too. Oh, rap music just used to be about us going to parties and have fun. Going to parties and having fun doing what? Engaging in some of the sexual stuff that he warned us not to do in Leviticus 18, when he said, you shall not lie with somebody else's wife. You shall not lie with. We already know that allegedly Africa Bambaataa and all those who were supposed to be part of the creation of this thing called rap music, hip hop culture, there are allegedly that he was involved in what? LGBTQ with a lot of artists back then. And this is before P. Diddy and all them came along. This is before that. Allegedly, these things have happened. Allegedly, they said that he can't go back to South Africa because he was caught up in some of this LGBTQ stuff. Allegedly, these hip-hop rap artists at the very beginning were being caught up in this kind of stuff. Drugs. When we went to the parties. Cocaine when you went to these parties. Crack when you went to these parties. Right? So all that is the foundation of it was not a foundation of what we would say should even be called our culture, but was made our culture because it was put out there by, remember that Death Records, all those record companies that promoted hip hop and rap at the very beginning was not our companies. They were who? They belonged to the money changers. So we can kind of say, yeah, they definitely had, but all they did was reintroduce our youth to the Canaanite culture because they know how to appeal to the flesh. And it appealed to you. It appealed to the it's your thing, do what you want to do, get out here and do all that you can do if you big and bad before you get too old to do it. And that's why you got people, like I said, I started during when I was around when it first started, hip hop, rap, but you still got people my age, right? Because I'll soon be 60 that are still, their mind and their demeanor is stuck back in that, right? They are still trying to kick it, be cool, all these other kind of different things, because that foundation told you to do that. You still get as many women. Some of them have never been married. I'm talking about both men and women that got caught up in that. And so all they did was the evolution of taking the hip hop culture, the rap culture. Yeah, it might have been a time when you had quote unquote the conscious rap or whatever. That was never going to be to stay, because unless it could have been taken, baby, because and understand this did happen where people tried to take rap and hip hop and all that and baptize it into this thing called Christianity or Islam. But remember, the stream of what they came out was part of the Canaanite culture. So it was never that it could be a redeemable thing that we could say, we're going to hold on to this for dear life, because it was always going to be meant to be used as a Trojan horse. When you telling a man with the hip hop culture, you got to have swag, you got to have whatever, you got to have appeal to the ladies, whatever, because the machoism of hip hopism. But they also said we're going to take that, right? We're gonna keep some of that, but we're gonna put it in overdrive. That's why you can see by the late 90s how most of the videos would have the young black men surrounded on a bed by a bunch of half-nude black women or whatever, because that was going to be the evolution of it, because it was getting into the iniquity of the Amorites, Canaanites was starting to rise up. And then it got to the point when my children were kids, at 11 o'clock every night, this is when during BET rap videos would come on, I would go upstairs and they didn't have the cell phones out by then, or at least not what we could afford. I would cut the TV off. No, we ain't watching no more TV out there, because all the rap videos are gonna have, might as well say porn. That's why some people they don't have to miss it now, because you got your cell phone now and you can watch it. But that's why a lot of people kind of like the BET music and stuff, because after 11 o'clock you could get all that. And when those rap videos came out, and those guys would basically be having orgies back then. So why are we shocked about what P. Diddy and all them, this is stuff that's been sold to us before he came on. All he did was take it up a notch. That's all he did. All he did was kind of like really like embed it into us. All he did was be a part of their instrument to say, you know what? We know that at the end of the 400 years, these people are going to wake up, but we can debauch enough of them to get involved in this Canaanite iniquities that we are promoting in this nation. Then when Yah judges us, he gonna have to judge a lot of them too. And this is one of the cases, just like we read here in Vines. He said mostly you would see that instead of destroying the Canaanite temples, David and his descendants, or the descendants of David, were building the temples for the Canaanites and for themselves. And so it got to a point where the Bible said that that there was a idol and a green a thing, a grove under every green tree, where these people, our ancestors, was getting it. And so the Japhetic nations, who is their time, the time of the Gentiles, knew that, and they said, we're gonna appeal through that through entertainment. We're gonna appeal that through people like Bill Cosby. We're gonna appeal to it through people like Africa Bambatas, through the things he did, because we're gonna get them to what? Because a lot of his stuff dealing with who? Egypt. Right? Egypt, right? We're going to appeal to that. The very thing that Leviticus 18 told him not to get involved in, because the land would spew them out, which the land is trying to spew the inhabitants of this nation off. But because y'all said the judgment was first begin at the house of Yahuwah, it's starting with us. It's not to say that, Epstein didn't come before P. Diddy. He came before P. Diddy. But you see how that thing went with Epstein. It kind of came and went. They didn't release no names, no nothing. But because who we are, y'all said, no, because you were disobedient, I'm going to put you on black, because I warned you against the iniquity of the Canaanites. And now the time of what I had similar told Abraham, the first time and the second time of you coming out of the land that was not your own in captivity, that I'm trying to bring you out, those is going to get caught up in the iniquity of the Canaanites are going to be destroyed when I destroy it. And one of the things that you see again is this thing with the immigration thing, where people are flooding across here. You see the thing with what's going on with the two candidates that you have to choose from, or any candidate for that matter. Neither one of them is going to be of any benefit to you, whichever one gets in the office. Neither one is going to be of help to you, right? Why? Because the iniquity of the Canaanite is ready to be judged. And the best thing that we can do is to make sure that we are not engaged in this. This is why the Most High is allowing this stuff to come out, to see who's going to co-sign and say, you know what, it's okay. You're already kind of seeing people, they don't understand by them saying, yeah, there's people that did have been doing worse things than P. Diddy, right? But why did the Most High allow him to come out? Because he's trying to warn us. I don't want you to involve in this, but what's going to happen is the enemy knew how to use reverse psychology too against us, so that there will be some, just like ones that was defending Bill Cosby, that were defending R. Kelly, right? And the things that they were engaging in, where we should have been rather reproving them, right? But that this is going to cause a wholesale persecution, destruction of our people, because it's not going to be coming from them. It's going to be coming from the Most High, because he said, I got to judge you first, and then I'm going to get with them, right? Remember my sermon when I talked about the woman being burnt with fire. Now we got our, ones that are arguing back and forth about whether Miss Harris is black, or whatever you want to call her. That's not important. She's she's making herself a representation of us, and our people are giving carte blanche to it. And because of that, that's again that the woman is going to be burnt with fire. That's going to be our people, right? But not the woman of the woman that had the 12 stars, that's going to be the woman that's riding on the back of the beast. Which woman are you going to relate to? Because Kamala is going to be the woman that's riding on the back of the beast, that the beast is going to throw off and burn with fire. I already told you what I believe is going to happen. I do believe she's going to become president, but I don't believe that she's going to be able to finish out her term, because America is going to come under attack. America is going to come under attack. When, I don't know. It could be 6 months after she's inaugurated. It could be the first day. It could be a year from the time that she's president. But somewhere, I believe, during her term of president, America is going to be burnt with fire. And it goes back to what I said in another lesson that I gave some time ago, where I said, look at them putting all our people on these thrones just to be what? Destroyed. Look what they're doing to Mayor Adams. Some of these charges they say are, should he have been doing them? No. But it was his decision to make. When he decided, I'm going to put myself in there, I know what I'm getting myself into. So now they're going to burn him, because he was not promoting the iniquity of the Amorites amongst. Well, let me take that back. He was not willingly. I ain't saying that he cared so much about us, but he has to give the pretense of that. But whatever it is, he disagreed with them, and they're destroying him. Not just him. My belief with what's going on with P. Diddy is that they're not so much concerned about what happened with the trafficking of the women. It's because of that Ciroc thing, right? Where he sued those, the alcohol industry is the industry of the money changers. The liquor industry, the spirits industry, that's their own. That's sort of like the mob. The Sicilians say we are the only real mafiosa. Everybody else that's not a Sicilian, we'll let you in to work along with us, but you will never be considered to be the bosses of the bosses, because you have to be born into that, right? And so it's the same thing with the spirits industry. And when P. Diddy did that lawsuit and had something to do with Ciroc, I think that was the thing that they're coming against him for, because they basically saying, we don't care what you consider yourself to be, a billionaire or whatever. We got you to do a certain thing to promote the iniquity of the Canaanites amongst your people, and that's not what you about. We'll give you the illusion that you own Ciroc, but you won't own. And when he did that lawsuit, I think they basically casting out. It was the same thing with Bill Cosby. They wasn't really concerned about all the women and stuff that he was doing, those different things, and y'all knows how many he probably did, right? They got concerned when he wanted to buy NBC Universal, and he was talking about producing shows that would show us in a better light. And they're like, no, that's not what we want you to promote amongst your people. It was the same thing with Byron Allen or whatever, and you know how he appealed to us or whatever, and he's still, right, he can't do what he want, right? And so we must understand that the iniquity of the Canaanites is full, and Yah is judging it. He is telling us we gotta come out from among them. We got one more scripture, Second Thessalonians 2, and we're going to start at verse 1. He said, now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Master Yeshua Mashiach, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as that the day of Messiah is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalting himself above all that it is called Yah, or that is worship, so that he as Yah sitteth in the temple of Yah, who was showing himself that he is Yah. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now you know that what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of what iniquity does already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken away. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So Paul said, don't be deceived that Yeshua has already came. These are the things that you will see to let you know that it is close to the time of his coming back. But notice he said the mystery of iniquity had started all the way back then. It had already started. The falling away had already started back then. We're not going into the falling away. We're coming to the end. We're coming to the crescendo of the falling away. The falling away started when Paul said, hey, look, y'all people, our people are rejecting the message of Yeshua. He said, lo, we go on to the Gentiles, because you judge yourself not worthy of eternal life. We're going into the Gentiles. And when they went into the Gentiles, what happened? The Gentiles over time started equating it to themselves. The Gentiles themselves started equating that they were the real people and we were the ones that was not. The Gentiles started taking the message and switching it around and moving it around and intertwining some of these things, the Phylex worship, the Baal worship, the Canaanite worship, back into this thing called Christianity. Back into this thing called Christianity, into this thing called Islam, because Islam has a lot of sexual debauch stuff in it also. It does. And so over time, these things have been building. And Yah was trying to show the world through the trans-Arab slave trade and through the trans-Atlantic slave trade that these things were of debauchery. He was trying to show during the time that we was in the deep South, in slavery in the South, with all the debaucherous stuff that was going on in it, and then the debaucherous stuff that was going on in what they call the Middle East and Northern Africa, when the Arabs and all those came and started, killing off, castrating the men and mating with the women and creating these third races. He was trying to show us the iniquity was starting to build. And then at the time that we went into captivity, right, back into, as they said, Egypt, and again in ships, that the countdown for the iniquity to start building up to the crescendo, to it when not just for us but all peoples, that this is why they're promoting the LGBTQ and all that, because the iniquity is rising up. But who are they trying to get it to push the image of it out? They're trying to get us to push the image of it out. They're trying to get us to be the face of all these things. When you talk about diversity, now you don't think about you don't think about just civil rights for Hebrew people, black people, but that word inclusion, all that is going with the LGBTQ and every manner of things that we talked about in Leviticus 18, trans, all these things, do as thou will, right? But now we see that the pretense of what these religions had, which they were somewhat also secretly allowing these things to go. Now we see what's rising, these LGBTQ coming into the different religions and saying that's re-quote all this, and you see where it said that the Antichrist, when he would exalt himself above all that was called Yah, And that's what you see in this whatever little bit of godliness that these so-called churches or whatever had, that these people are coming in and they have overturned it, right? They remember, but I said it started eons ago, but we're coming to the end of it, right? We're coming to the end of it where he's gonna openly show himself. He's openly showing himself, but that Yeshua said when he comes back, he's gonna what? Consume him with the brightness of his coming and with the spirit of his mouth. So we see that we as believers in Yeshua, we're telling all, both Hebrew and non-Hebrew, come out from the iniquity of the Canaanite, because it is time for our deliverer, right? Because Moses said it was going to be a deliverer that was going to come just like me. Him you will hear. Yeshua is that deliverer that's going to come at the time to destroy the all the followers, those and the end of the devil, and to end the reign of the Gentiles, and to destroy those that hold the cup of the Canaanites, which is full to the brim, including some of our people that will not come out from among them. So this is a admonition word for you to come out. Yah is already revealing it. It's not gonna be a lot of people that's gonna be calling for an end to the stuff that P. Diddy and all those doing, because they already see that they're promoting it. But what they gonna say is it shouldn't be a forced thing. They're gonna say these people were forced into it. The things they were engaging in, if they had just did them on their own, that would be okay. But they're gonna say he forced them. No, according to Yah, he said don't engage in it, whether it's forced, unforced, whatever. Now we understand during slavery we were forced by force or whatever, but he said don't get engaged in none of this stuff, because that's what they made us engage in when they had the slave breeding farm. They said sometimes brothers and sisters would be mating with each other if that's what it took. They made us engage in all these different things, but the iniquity was rising up. But now it is at that point that a lot of our people some of them are willingly engaging in some of these things. They're willingly engaging in these things, whether they call themselves Christian, atheist, Muslim, whatever. So that's why he's judging us first. But the iniquity of the Amorites is full. So with that, I'm going to ask you to repent, turn away from your sin, believe on Yeshua, get ready for the destruction to come, but occupy until he comes. So you see this video, I want you to leave a comment on what you think about it. I want you to subscribe, and I want you to give it a thumbs up. Be blessed.